When it comes to using a cane as a personal protection tool, I try to keep as simplistic as possible. And I try to involve my other weapons as well, my empty hands and whatever I happen to be carrying at the time that can be used as a weapon, such as a cutting tool. When I say simplistic, what I really mean is straightforward. Not a lot of fluff. I try to throw all the fluff out. I mean, I do love some things for artistic value and the fun of training, but for the most part, I am trying to streamline everything I do. When you watch me do this with the cane, these movements, you'll see a lot of elements from the campo from the outside, and I move into some real combative elements. Lots of it taken from the Medusa system and other systems that I train. But a lot of times I'm just doing gross motor, two-hand striking, or just the downward X, and not a lot of fancy stick movements. I use the device a lot from the Campo 123 original. The Campo 123 original is, in my opinion, for Filipino martial arts, the best base for using a cane or a walking stick. The Campo 123 original is not flashy or fancy. It's very, very straightforward and emphasizes power a lot and applies itself very well to a long-range weapon. You will see that I generally always close into clinch range when I'm using the cane. I don't just stay out at long range. If I had the opportunity to stay out at long range in a fight, absolutely I would do it. If I could finish the fight at long range, I would want to do that 100%, because corto range or clinch range is very dangerous to be in. But because it happens, because it's over 60% of most fights, you have to train it, and you have to train it diligently. This statistic has come out from some of the latest studies on violence, most of which have debunked the theory that was thrown around that 90% of fights end up in a ground fight. Usually the person who ends up on the ground in an assault is unconscious or worse, or often just getting kicked while they're down. The idea of wrestling around does happen. It's not the majority of what happens. It's about 20% according to the latest studies that have been thrown around. My source for this is Randy King, who is one of Canada's leading experts in criminal and social violence. If you don't know him, you should look him up. You should follow him. He has a lot of great information. One of the things that is both good and bad about a cane is that it is always in hand. If you have it in hand, that means that you're either going to have to ditch it or you're going to have to use it in an assault or an altercation that gets physical. This means that the man or woman who are carrying a weapon like a cane or a tool like a cane has to be very in control of their own temper. They have to have a safe temperament that is not given into anger or rage or ego-based fighting. You cannot afford to get into that bullshit if you're going to carry tools for personal protection. That has to go by the wayside. The beauty is your cane is in hand. If you get forced into a situation, you have a weapon in hand, not in a pocket, not in a sheath, in your hand. It's already there. You're already armed. When you carry something with this kind of reach, it is best to maximize its effectiveness by being very assertive about your own space. Tell people to stay the fuck away from you, and be ready to back that up with action. Words are not enough. You have to be willing to go to force. If you're gonna assert your boundaries and try to de-escalate a situation, you have to be willing to do what you need to if your de-escalation does not work. But always try to de-escalate. We know this. Always try to escape. Always try to evade. This is not something I like to repeat, but because there may be new people to the ideals of self-defense, I will say this again and again. Your duty is to not engage if you have the opportunity. Your duty is to escape. And once violence is brought to you, as soon as escape to safety is an option, you need to use that option. We know this. Now, hitting heavy bags and targets is not enough. You have to get together with other people and train to hit moving targets who are aggressively trying to move into your range. And, you need to do some sparring, you need to do some fighting, you need to play around with your friends and develop your skills against resistant opponents. Really focus on trying to stay out of close range when you're working with your partners, and have your partners focus on trying to bring you into close range, trying to get close and stab you with training knives and things like this. This will develop some very, very transferable skills to real violence. Remember, training is not real violence, but what we're trying to do is create a mindset of being willing to fight back, being willing to be violent until it's time not to be violent. One of the things that I love about the Campo 123 original is its emphasis on movement and footwork. Now, you see me standing in front of this target, but I practice footwork a lot, especially in my shadow boxing, or what I call ensayo. I am constantly moving because movement is the key to keeping you at the range you want to be with a weapon like this. I don't want to close distance. I just understand that that's a reality of fighting, and that's a reality of violence. So it's a reality that I embrace in my training. I embrace the dirtiest moves combined with my cane: headbutts, elbows, hammer fists, palm strikes, biting. It's all in there. It's all in there. Eye gouging. Lots of terrible, mean things. Because if I am going to defend myself, I am going to defend with cruel intentions, because I never would choose to bring violence to another person. If I have to be violent or use force, it is because someone is forcing it on me. I would never choose that in my interactions with other human beings. I am a man of peace. I am a man who has empathy for others. The idea of hurting another human being is actually quite horrible to me, even though I train it all the time. I never want to use these skills against somebody. I keep them in my back pocket in case I need them. And that's the attitude that all people who train self-protection need to have. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.